What's good, everybody? How you guys doing today? So welcome back to a brand new video, and this video is going to be a bit of a camera comparison video, as the title does say. I have been thinking of this video for a while, and but I've also had something running through the back of my mind this whole week, and I was like, alright, I made a short about it last night, but I feel like I should make a longer video about it just to see, you know, the true differences. So in my mind, or for a while, I've been already thinking of doing like camera comparisons. I was thinking of doing it with this guy, my current new camcorder that I've had for about 5 months, versus my new vlogging camera that I got also 5 months ago, and I've had that for a while now. But I've been telling myself this, that I have not been barely using these cameras for, you know, not as much as I thought. Like, I've barely been using them at all. See, this guy I'm not too upset about for two reasons. One, because I didn't pay as much. I paid like 200 bucks. And number two, I need to upgrade from my Vixia anyway, and I've had that for about 4.5 years, so I definitely need an upgrade. It's the vlogging camera where I'm a little more upset about, because one, I paid a lot of money. I paid $300 for that, and I feel like I upgraded so soon afterwards. Like, I feel like I didn't even have to upgrade. It was just a stupid decision. I just decided to tell myself, you know what, I'm upgrading one thing, why not upgrade the other? But I think that might have been a bit of a mistake. So in this video, we're going to be comparing my old vlogging camera, the Sony HX80, versus the Canon SX730, which I got this in February. Now, I don't know, something about the Canon, I know it has good quality and all, and it definitely does, but something about it just hits very different, or like something about the Sony hits very different compared to the Canon, and it's not the same. Like, something about the Sony just kind of, I don't know, after a longer while, it's kind of like you realize something, I don't know, it's hard to describe it. And I don't really want to go too depth into it, but I did make a short about it, how I was kind of upset that I spent so much money on it. And so I think in order to see the true test of how good these both are, or if I made a mistake or not, and I guess for some people out there looking for a vlogging camera, because I've seen some of these videos actually out already, but they don't really show the quality. That's what I'm going to do in this video. So we're going to test the Sony HX80 versus the Canon SX730. As for when I'll do the other comparisons, I did have one in mind for the Canon Vixia versus this guy to see how much of a difference I really upgraded into. And I was eventually thinking, you know, this guy and versus this guy, but I don't know about that one, if whatever choice I made, because I did kind of title it that I might sell it. I don't know, honestly. I'm going to think about it, because I really want to make sure I'm not going to do something that I'm going to regret. So, without further ado, let's get started with the comparison. So the Sony HX80 came out in 2016, and I bought this thing in I bought this in June 2021 for 200 bucks. And I think for the price the price I got it for, it's a steal. Like, it's a really good camera. The quality is decent enough. There are some shots where it doesn't shoot the best thing, especially in low light. But if you have it at 60 FPS, it will not be that bad at all. If you have it at 30 FPS though, in low light situations, the frame rate will drop dramatically to like 15, and it looks like you'll be recording with some, I don't know, camera from the early 2000s or something like that. So if you're gonna buy this thing, just have it at 60 FPS. I'm telling you, it's gonna be life-changing. And overall, it's not bad quality at all. It reminds me of, my mom had a old little Sony Cybershot camera from 2009. It reminds me so much of it. And it also reminds me of a Plane Rock 124, because he used to own this camera back in the day, but he didn't like it because he didn't know about the 60 FPS setting, I guess. And you know, his current vlogging cameras are Sony, and it kind of reminds me a lot of it. They're almost close to quality, or somewhat. I mean, this is like the budget version, and the one he has is, I think, one of the most expensive ones, like the ZV-1. The Sony ZV-1, which I think goes for about $800, something like that. And I've had this camera for about 2 years at this point. It's pretty solid. And then there's the Canon SX730, which is not a bad camera at all whatsoever, but I think for the price it goes for, you can on average find this for about $250 to $300, which I don't know if it's really worth that price. Honestly, I think it should be 200 bucks. I mean, I know it's as close to the G7X in terms of quality. I get that, but like, I still think if they're marketing it for like a budget camera like this, then I think it should be 200 bucks at least. Or, I mean, this isn't really Canon's fault. This camera came out in 2017, and it's the people selling it online on eBay. I think this should be worth at least 200 bucks. No more than that, honestly, but I think because I was a little desperate for some reason. I really think I should have just waited a while. I think I still would have been fine vlogging with this guy. Although one thing, I really like the design, the space gray color of the Canon. That I think this one is a deal breaker for sure. At least over the G7X. I saw this at Best Buy and I saw the G7X at Best Buy once. This one just looks better, dude. Like, if comparing the two, the G7X doesn't look as good as this guy. It's a space gray color, dude. It just looks so good. And this thing, in comparison to G7X, this thing has farther zoom, all of that kind of stuff. This thing does record in 60 FPS as well. I don't know if I already mentioned, but it came out in 2017. This does record 60 FPS as well, which is nice. But even in slightly darker situations, the frame rate will drop to 30. And I don't know why. I think it even just does that with the G7X too. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a massive. That's kind of a thing that really annoys me. See, with the Sony, the frame does drop when it's super dark, but not by much. If it's even slightly darker, this thing will still maintain 60. And something I did notice is the colors on this are, maybe they're a little too bright. Maybe it might be my settings might be on something. I don't know. I think last I checked they were on auto. This is, I don't know, I'll have to look at it. But this thing is like basically a budget G7X, and I think it does a good job at that. And it does also remind me a lot of my, my old Canon SX730 I bought back in 2017. It's basically a smaller version of that, but better because it has a flip-up screen and it does 1080p in 60 FPS. So if we do the thing, it doesn't do a startup noise with the camera flipped around, but so you can see they both have flip-up screens. I'm gonna turn this guy on real quick. I can't reach the button. But as you can see, they both have flip-up screens, so that's what they're both for, is for vlogging cameras. And I think for that alone, you know, this is what they're meant for. They do a fantastic job, both of them. But I wanted to see actually video quality, you know, comparisons, to actually see where does one stand over the other. And we're going to do a couple tests. We're going to do, you know, some indoor tests here in my room, outdoor shots, you know, zoom tests, microphone tests, low light tests, focus, all that kind of thing. So yeah, let's get this video started. Okay, so we're gonna start off, and this is the indoor tests of both cameras. I'm going to switch up the mic between each other. Thankfully, because these cameras are both light, or the Canon not so much, they're not super heavy to hold. I mean, this guy's, I can feel my arm hurting already. But if I was comparing camcorder versus vlog camera, I'd have to have like a selfie stick and a tripod, because it'd be easier to hold them that way. I want to have them a little low. But if we look here, I can see where the Canon does have the advantage. You know, the colors do definitely seem a little brighter. Although it's not as bad on the Sony. I should probably see, look, there's focus already. You guys can see that. If we look down in the window here, they actually don't look at all that different. But you do see that the frame rates, you know, that's the massive difference. I have them both at auto settings at 1080p 60 FPS. Yet we can see the Canon is slightly struggling to capture the 60 FPS, even when I'm in super bright conditions out here. And the Sony does a pretty good job maintaining it. They both do a pretty good job. And again, the colors, once you're in brighter situations, they look decent, you know. I think I do notice that the zoom factor is definitely a lot wider on the Sony for sure. If we move over here to see what the camera can pick up. Okay, so you can definitely see my face more on the Canon, but it's not grainy at all on the Sony. I think it tries to capture the outside too, which it's not bad. But you know, the Canon, if it's trying to pick up my face, I think this is where the Canon definitely wins over the Sony. Now making our way to the mirror, here's where the Canon starts to get back to 60 FPS. Now here I do kind of see the colors, definitely the comparison between the two. But I do see on the Canon, they look like they're so bright. On the Sony, they just look a little darker, but it's not anything terrible at all, honestly. I feel like they are massively bright on the Canon for sure. But as you can see, we're obviously this Canon right here, and that's the Sony right there. I sometimes am telling, what if I just vlog with these two cameras? But I don't know how that's gonna work out at all, honestly. And like I said, these both have flip-up screens, so you can obviously see yourself. And now if we're gonna do a test here, yeah, I can see where the Canon does have the advantage in the colors. I just say for some reason they look so bright for some reason. Let's see the towel here. See, yeah, look at the pink in the towel. Like, you definitely see it is a lot brighter. Is it? I think even brighter than in person. On the Sony, it is like slightly darker. I don't know though. It's kind of hard. You know, they're both good cameras, but I kind of feel like for the price I paid the Canon for, it's like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Want to do a true comparison to make sure I'm not about to do something that I'm gonna regret. And you guess again, the frame drops on the Canon, dude, it's at 30 for some reason. when I have them at 60, and on the Sony, see how it's maintaining, doing all these movements just to show you guys, but you see on the Sony, it is maintaining it just fine. But now my arms are both freaking hurting. Let's go do the outdoor tests, and I want to do it fast because it's too freaking hot outside and I don't want to be outside for too long. So yeah, let's go. Alright, we're back in my favorite spot for filming, which today I mean that sarcastically because it is freaking hot. Okay, where I do notice that the Canon does have the advantage is stabilization. I think the Canon, that's probably why the crop factor or the white factor is probably little, you know, like it's further on the Sony because it doesn't have stabilization. I don't think the Canon has the stabilization either, but it is a lot more stable from what I'm seeing. And let's see, so I'm seeing already just this angle, you can see that the Sony is picking up the flowers, the plants, and the floor okay, but like the Canon, it's picking it up more on the flowers, and the ground's like, I don't know, you can see it, but it's just the colors look a decent amount brighter. But if we shift over here, it's kind of hard to look at both screens, but let's look up here. Okay, so here you see where the Sony definitely has the advantage. Although the sky looks a lot more blue in the Sony than it does in real life. The Canon, well, I don't want to say that the Canon's colors are a little, I don't know, lighter, while on the freaking Sony, it just went all blue, which is... I didn't expect that. I was gonna do some movements. Now both are maintaining at 60 FPS just because of the because it's bright outside. If we look out there, okay, so here on the Canon the colors do look more realistic, and look at the focus issues. You guys just saw that. So we see again, I think where the Sony definitely also outtakes the Canon is the focus. So let's just move around a little. See, I can't really see the screens, you know, they're not really that bright because of the sun especially also. But if we look here, you can see that the Canon has like more stabilization in the lens versus the Sony. And if we shift it up there, you can see the Canon is like, took a while to focus to the sky. But the colors on the sky on the Sony, for some reason, they look like there's the color blue of like water or something, but like I don't know, that's like so far off from what it looks like in real life. Okay, now moving out here when we show my face. Yes, again, that when the light shines on my face, you see that the colors on the Canon, again, they're freaking bright. On the Sony, it looks decent, you know, it looks fine. And the Canon, I just feel like it's too bright. If we look at like at my face by the sky, you see that the Sony's picking up the sky and my face at the same time, and you see that the Canon is just picking up my face and struggling with the sky, which I don't know, it looks a little weird, but it does not look all that bad, I guess. But you do see it. I feel like for other people this will definitely be a deal breaker. Something like the bushes here, we're just gonna move a little bit slowly. Yeah, see how much the Sony, you know, moved to the, you know, shifted colors right away. Canon struggling, but the Sony also captures the other background colors too just fine, whereas the Sony, or I mean the Canon, has them really bright. Now I'm gonna do a running test, see how the mic sounds when it comes to, you know, heavy wind movements, because I know it's gonna capture a lot of wind, and I will have these separately, obviously, but I am also gonna put them like, you know, face to face to see how it gets the stabilization. So we're capturing stabilization here and, you know, heavy wind movements. So here we go. So I don't know which one did better there, but I'm gonna look in the computer, and I guess I'll see for myself later on, and you guys can see for yourself as well. So again, in this kind of environment, you see that again the Canon's colors seem a little brighter than usual. On the Sony, it looks like it's a bit dark. We actually do more of a close-up. I guess the colors seem more natural on the Canon now, I think, the closer I get. And yes, I know I need to shave my face. It has been forever. Now we're gonna do a zoom test to see the zoom comparison between the two. Now I have it at really fast because the normal zoom length is extremely slow for some freaking reason. Like unbearably slow, like even slower than the Canon probably. That's why I have it at the max. And then you guys see here, it does make that noise. But the zoom, let's see, actually I should probably zoom in a little farther. Besides, I'm not really in a fair comparison.
Zoom in a little slowly to the leaves, going a little past the optical zoom, I think. But it almost with little to no drop in quality, and that's pretty good. You know, I'm zooming pretty far. I don't know what it is fully, the full actual digital zoom. I think it was like 200x. I don't know. I'll look at it later. But the zoom is pretty good on this thing.
Now moving on with the Canon, and again the zoom here, it is pretty slow. There's no fast setting. I guess here's where you could see that the colors do seem more natural, more real light almost compared to the Sony. If you look around there, it is pretty slow to zoom though, and you guys see it did have a little bit struggle focusing with the sky, or you know, focusing when it comes to changing or shifting colors. But it's not all terrible. If we do it here, it is, and again almost with little to no drop in quality at all. I think the zoom is actually a lot clearer on the Canon, a lot more clear.
Okay, so now the low light test where we really see the true colors here. Again, the frame rate on the Canon though, you can see a bit of grain. Definitely now you can see a lot of grain and a bit of the darker colors, but they are brighter on the Sony. I do actually see it here. If we look here, yeah. And you see the Canon is actually kind of struggling to focus, even just a bit. Most of the lights is coming from the window. Yeah, you see in darker situations, I think this tends to get bad. Actually, I think the Sony's, yeah, there we go. They both got on focus. If we're gonna go in here now, which is a bit brighter. I think in the lower, like, look at the Canon, it's focusing. It's like crazy, man. I think we could definitely agree that here in the lower light situation, Sony definitely does win, for the reason that while it is kind of grainy, it is getting the colors brighter here, and it's not only is it also not focusing frequently, but the frame rates, you know, it's maintaining 60 even in the lower situations or in the darker situations. So here the Sony S8 did better for sure. Alright, well that's gonna wrap it up for this video. It's a little later on because I went out somewhere. So in terms of my personal opinions, what do I think of these two guys? Well, they're good in their own way, but in some characteristics, one beats the other. So the Sony and the Canon, okay, so I think the Sony beats it in terms of like focus and all that kind of stuff, frame rates, anything similar to that. So right now I have focus, frame rate, and I think that's primarily that. And I guess maybe I think that's really it with the Canon. It's mostly, I guess, the colors and just the overall quality. I don't know. In some other places, the Sony does beat the Canon in terms of low light. Well, because you guys saw in the low light test that, you know, while this thing was pretty grainy, it did try at least to get the you know, the colors out when it was dark. And this guy was like didn't try that much. So even when you're like changing angles from like, you know, one place to another, like even if it's from darker light to lower light, or from lower light to dark, or I'm sorry, hold on, what am I saying, bro? I think I'm just tired. So like, I mean, from brighter lights to darker lights, I think the Sony definitely does a better job at adjusting at that, because it does it quicker. This guy, it struggles a little bit, and even let's say recording my face, and there's like a bright background in front of me. Like the Sony can capture both of them, while the Canon can capture only my face, and it struggles a little bit with the brighter scenery, because it, you know, it's kind of showed it all white. Like when I showed my face when I was like, you know, right behind sky and all that, and that's all it showed. I feel like Sony did better on that. Price wise, the Sony's definitely better and more worth the money, honestly, because, you know, it's cheaper. It's $200, while the Canon, when you could find it for average $250 to $300. And if they're marketing to be a budget camera, I think it should be cheaper. But I don't know, honestly. At the end of the day, it's up to you guys in terms of, you know, my personal recommendations. I don't know, honestly. I like them both. They're good in their own way, so it's a little hard to give out, you know, personal opinion. I see a lot of people though, they say they prefer the Sony. From those other comparisons I saw that were, you know, online, or they just kind of shows like specification wise, they don't actually show, you know, sample recordings and all that, like footage, you know, things recorded with the camera. That's what they don't show. So that's why people, I guess a lot of people were confused. But for some people who were debating, most of them said that the Sony was the better option. So I guess now this video will be easier for you guys, because I actually put head-to-head comparisons, you know, things recorded with the camera to actually make it accurate. Alright guys, well, that's gonna be it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.